I need you to understand something before I tell this story. Nothing about what happened felt dramatic at first. There was no loud bang, no scream ripping through the house, no moment where danger kicked the door in and made itself obvious. That's the part that still screws with me. Because real fear doesn't announce itself. It waits, it listens, and it survives on the fact that you feel safe. People love saying things like, "I'd have noticed. I'd feel something off. There's no way someone could hide in my house." I used to believe that too, until the night I realized someone had been living beneath us the entire time, and none of us had ever thought to check. This happened when I was 20. My best friend Mark lived about 20 minutes outside the city, in one of those neighborhoods estate agents can't shut up about. Tree-lined streets, wide driveways, lawns that actually got watered. The kind of place where kids leave bikes out overnight and nobody worries about it. Mark's parents trusted the area. They trusted people. And because of that, Mark trusted the house. So did I. I'd been staying over at Mark's place since high school. Sleepovers, late-night gaming, movie marathons. I'd spent more nights there than I could count, most of them in the basement. The basement was our spot. Old couch, big TV, speakers that rattled the walls, a mini fridge humming quietly in the corner. It felt separated from the rest of the house, like its own little bubble. And that matters, because the basement also had another room, a storage room, low ceiling, bare concrete floor, boxes stacked right up to the ceiling. We never used it, not because it was creepy, not because it was locked, just because it didn't matter. And that's exactly the kind of place danger loves. Mark's parents went out of town for a long weekend. Anniversary trip. They'd done it loads of times before. Nothing about it raised alarms. But once they left, the house felt different. Not empty, just aware, like it was listening. We had a small get-together that night. Nothing mad, a few drinks, music kept low, just mates hanging out. By midnight, people started heading off. By 1 a.m., it was just me and Mark. I crashed on the basement couch like always. Before sleeping, I remember doing one specific thing. I locked the basement door, not because I was scared, just muscle memory. I even tested the handle, gave it a quick tug, then shook my head. Get a grip, I thought. I passed out almost straight away. I woke up to silence, the wrong kind. No TV hum, no fridge buzz, no random house noises. I checked my phone. 3:17 a.m. My chest felt tight, heart racing like I'd been startled awake from a bad dream. Then I heard it. Breathing, not mine. Slow, even, controlled. Close enough that it felt like it was inside my skull. I didn't move, because moving would have made it real. My brain went into panic logic mode. Mark's awake. Someone's snoring upstairs. You're half asleep, mate. Chill. Then the breathing stopped, and something shifted behind me. Fabric, soft, deliberate, like someone adjusting their weight. I flicked my phone torch on and spun around. The basement was empty. Couch, TV, door, everything normal. I sat up, heart pounding, telling myself I was being an idiot. That's when I noticed it. The storage room door. It wasn't closed. It wasn't wide open either. Just cracked, like someone had been careful. I knew, absolutely knew. It hadn't been like that before. I whispered Mark's name. Nothing. The house stayed dead quiet. That silence felt heavier than noise ever could. I stood up, took one step toward the door, then another. Every step felt wrong, like crossing a line I couldn't step back over. I pushed the storage door open. There was a man standing inside. Not crouched, not hiding. Standing, between the boxes, close enough that my phone light hit his chest before his face. He didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't blink. He just stared at me. His eyes were wide but calm, like he'd already accepted this moment was coming. Then he smiled, small, tired, relieved, like I'd finally caught on. I staggered back and screamed Mark's name. The man didn't chase me, didn't rush, didn't panic. He just said quietly, "I didn't mean to wake you." That sentence still makes my stomach turn, because it meant he'd been watching me sleep. For how long? I still don't know. I bolted upstairs, shouting, slipping on steps, slamming doors behind me. Mark came out of his room pissed off until he saw my face. I couldn't explain it properly. I just kept saying, "There's someone in the basement." We locked ourselves in the kitchen and called the police. Those 10 minutes felt endless. Every little sound made us flinch. When the police arrived, they searched the basement first, then the storage room, then the rest of the house. They found him behind the water heater, sitting, waiting. He didn't resist, didn't argue, didn't even look shocked. He just looked exhausted. In his backpack, they found bottled water, snacks, extra clothes, gloves, and a small notebook. That notebook changed everything. It wasn't random scribbles. It was a log, dates, times, observations. Lights off by 11:40. Basement couch used most nights. Parents gone weekends. He'd been living there for nearly 2 weeks, only moving at night, listening, learning routines. One officer asked Mark a simple question. "When was the last time anyone checked this room?" Mark didn't answer straight away, because the answer was worse than not knowing. He finally said quietly, "I don't think we ever have." The man had entered through an unlocked back door, a moment nobody remembered, and once inside, he stayed, because nobody checked, because nobody expects danger in a place that feels familiar. Here's the part people hate admitting. Your brain drops its guard in places you associate with safety. That's called normalcy bias. It's why this worked. Mark's parents sold the house. I stopped sleeping in basements. And even now, years later, I can't stay anywhere overnight without checking every door, every room, every space someone could hide. Because the scariest part wasn't that a stranger broke in. It's that he didn't break anything. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He just stayed, quietly, waiting for someone to finally notice. Before I start, I need you to understand something. I didn't mess up at the beginning. I didn't take shortcuts. I didn't trust strangers. I didn't do anything reckless or stupid. That mattered because the second people hear stories like this, they start hunting for the mistake. They want a clean moment they can point at and say, "Yeah, that's where you screwed up." But there wasn't one. What happened to me didn't start with danger. It started with routine. And that's exactly why it worked. At the time, I was living alone in a mid-sized city, big enough to disappear in, small enough that patterns mattered. I worked late. I walked home late. After a while, my body memorized the city better than my brain ever could. Which streets stayed lit longer? Which shortcuts shaved time? Which routes felt boring and therefore safe? When you live like that long enough, you stop seeing the city. You just move through it on autopilot. That night was a Wednesday. I remember because Wednesdays always felt heavier, like the week was dragging itself forward and nobody wanted to admit it. I left work at 11:40 p.m. The building emptied fast, elevators silent, lobby lights dimmed. The security guard barely looked up when I passed. I took my usual route home, and that's when I made my first real mistake. Not because the route was dangerous, but because I trusted it. The service lane behind the restaurants wasn't officially an alley. It was just ignored space. Dumpsters, back doors, cracked concrete, sodium lights flickering like they were tired of trying. I'd walked it hundreds of times, but the second I stepped into it that night, something in my chest tightened. Not fear, awareness. The sound came first, a dull impact, then silence, then another impact, heavier. I slowed down. That's how it gets you. Curiosity never feels like danger until you're already involved. At the far end of the lane, I saw two figures, one standing, one pressed against the wall. Then the standing one moved. His arm came up, came down. The sound was wrong. Not loud, not dramatic, just dull. The kind of sound you hear when something soft gets hit very hard. The person against the wall slid down, not collapsing, sliding, like their legs had simply switched off. That's when my brain finally screamed, "Leave." I stepped backward, slow, controlled, and my shoe scraped the ground. Barely a sound, but in that silence, it was everything. The man stopped, slowly, deliberately. He turned his head toward me. Even from a distance, I could tell something was off. He wasn't startled. He wasn't angry. He wasn't rushed. He looked composed, like this wasn't a surprise. like it was an interruption. He took one step toward me. Not fast, not slow, measured. That's when I saw him clearly. A suit, clean, dark, well-fitted, white shirt, tie straight, shoes polished. He looked like he'd stepped out of an office building. Not like someone who'd just beaten another human being half-conscious in a service lane. That contrast, violence wrapped in professionalism, short-circuited something in my head. He raised his chin slightly and said, "Hey," just that. No threat, no urgency, like we'd bumped into each other at a lift. That's when fear finally hit, because fear doesn't come from shouting. It comes from calm, from someone who isn't worried about being seen. I ran, didn't scream, didn't shout for help. I ran because every instinct in my body agreed on one thing. If he gets close, something permanent happens. I burst onto the main street, blended into the shadows, and didn't stop until I reached the nearest place with lights and people, a gas station on the corner. I bent over gasping, lungs burning. When I finally looked back, there was nothing. No suit, no footsteps, just traffic lights cycling like the world hadn't skipped a beat. For a moment, my brain tried to erase it. That's how shock protects you. I called the police, gave them everything. Time, location, description. When I mentioned the suit, the officer paused. Not long, just long enough. Then he asked, "Did he see you?" I said yes. That single word changed the tone completely. They found the victim alive, barely. But the man in the suit was gone. No weapon, no fingerprints, no trace. Like he'd stepped out of the night without leaving an echo. For 2 days, nothing happened. And somehow, those 2 days were worse. Because fear without a target turns inward. Your brain replays moments, rewrites memories, fills gaps that don't need filling. Then on the third night, I saw him again, across the street, standing outside a closed storefront. Same posture, same stillness, hands in his pockets, watching me like I was late to something. When our eyes met, he smiled. Not friendly, private, like we shared a secret nobody else was in on. Then he turned and walked away, unhurried. At my car, I found the receipt. Same gas station, same timestamp. Proof. He wasn't guessing. He was tracking. From there, it escalated slowly. That's the part people don't understand. Predators don't rush. They condition. Coffee left on my desk. My name spelled correctly. Roots mirrored. Timing adjusted. Every change I made, he countered. Not aggressively, efficiently. Like I was just another variable in a system he already understood. The security footage from my apartment building broke me. Him leaning into the camera, looking straight into it, mouthing words without sound. "Don't make this hard." That wasn't a threat. It was instruction. When the call finally came, no caller ID, I already knew. The breathing, the calm voice. "You moved." Not a question, a confirmation. Then he said, "I don't like witnesses." Something in me shut down completely, because that wasn't anger. That was policy. The detective later told me something I still think about. He said, people like him don't need to hurt everyone. They just need one person to carry the fear forward. That's how control spreads. I moved cities, changed jobs, changed routines, changed everything. For a while, I slept again. Then the photo arrived. My old hallway, my door, and him, standing just out of frame, like a reminder or a receipt. Here's the part I can't explain away. He didn't need to chase me anymore, because after a while, I carried him with me. In every quiet street, every empty platform, every late-night phone ring. The worst part of being stalked isn't the fear, it's the reprogramming. The way your world shrinks, the way normal never comes back, the way you realize. Some people don't destroy your life loudly, they just rearrange it, so you never feel alone again, even when you are. Before I start, I need to say this clearly. I'm not someone who mixes fear with imagination. I don't jump straight to supernatural explanations, and I'm definitely not telling this for attention. Not gonna lie, if I could erase this from my head, I would. But that's the problem. My mind tries to forget, my body doesn't. Even now, years later, my hands shake when the temperature drops too fast. Like my nervous system remembers something my brain keeps trying to file away. People think survival stories are about toughness, about grit, about pushing through pain. They're not. They're about timing, about margins so thin you don't feel them until they're gone, and about who or what shows up when your body's already starting to shut down. This happened in British Columbia during a solo backcountry ski trip I'd planned for nearly a year. I wasn't inexperienced. I'd trained hard, practiced emergency drills. I carried avalanche gear, a satellite radio, GPS, first aid kit, spare layers, extra food. Every box people love to tick online when they say, well, if you'd prepared properly, you'd be fine. That's why this still messes with me, because preparation didn't save me. I left early that morning, the kind of early where the world feels unfinished, like reality hasn't fully loaded yet. The sky was that sharp winter blue that almost hurts to look at, snow untouched, no wind, dead quiet. The kind of calm that makes you feel stupidly confident. At the trailhead, there were a few other cars. Not many, just enough to make it feel normal, safe, routine. I remember tightening my boots and thinking, yeah, this is gonna be a good day. That thought matters, because it was the last moment I felt in control. Before heading out, I texted my brother, if I'm not back by 7, start calling. Half joke, half habit. It shouldn't have been a joke. The climb went smoothly at first, snow was stable, visibility solid. My breathing settled into rhythm. Out there, time stretches, thoughts slow down. You stop rushing things. That's why the first warning didn't feel dangerous. My GPS lagged, not dead, not wrong, just delayed. I tapped it. The map snapped back into place. I told myself the cold was messing with the battery. Get a grip, I thought. That was mistake number 1. About 3 hours in, the mountain changed its mind. The weather didn't roll in. It arrived. Clouds swallowed the ridge like a curtain dropping. Wind came hard and fast, slicing straight through my layers like they weren't doing a damn thing. Visibility collapsed. 30 feet, then 20, then nothing. Just white in every direction. No horizon, no depth, no sense of up or down. That's when your brain starts panicking quietly. Not screaming, just whispering bad ideas. I stopped moving, checked my bearings, decided to turn back. That decision should have saved me. Instead, it put me exactly where the mountain wanted me. The slope shifted under my weight, not an avalanche. Nothing dramatic, just enough. The ground disappeared and suddenly I was sliding, bouncing, smashing into trees I didn't see until they were already hitting me. My skis ripped free, a pole snapped clean, something twisted in my ankle and pain exploded so hard it made me gag. When I finally stopped, I couldn't tell up from down. I lay there gasping, snow melting against my face, staring into a sky that looked exactly like the ground. I tried to stand. I couldn't. Radio, static, GPS, dead, phone, no signal. That's when the fear changed. Not panic, acceptance. Because when everything fails at once, your brain does something strange. It stops arguing. I don't know how long I sat there before I realized the cold wasn't just uncomfortable anymore. It was taking things from me. Fingers numb, thoughts slower, words slipping away mid-sentence. That's when I heard footsteps. Crunching snow, slow, deliberate, close. My first thought, no kidding, was that my brain was lying to me. Hypothermia does that, creates people, voices, rescue that isn't real. I waited for the sound to fade. It didn't. A shape pushed through the white. A man, tall, broad, wrapped head to toe in dark winter gear. Face covered except for his eyes. He didn't rush, didn't shout, didn't ask if I was all right. He looked down at me and said, "You shouldn't sit still." His voice was calm, too calm. Relief hit me so hard my chest hurt. I tried to speak, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. He knelt beside me and checked my ankle quickly. Efficient, professional, like he'd done this more times than he could count. "Can you stand?" I shook my head. He nodded, like that answer had already been factored in. Then he did something I still can't explain. He pulled off one glove and pressed his bare hand against my wrist, not checking my pulse, warming me. His skin was warm, out there, in that cold. That should have been impossible. "We need to move," he said. "You fall asleep out here, you don't wake up." I asked where he came from. He didn't answer. Instead, he hauled me up, basically lifted me, and started moving downhill. No hesitation, no checking direction, no second guessing. Like the mountain was a map he'd memorized years ago. We moved for a long time. Time stopped behaving properly. Sometimes I drifted, vision tunneling, thoughts breaking apart. Every time I slowed, his grip tightened. Not rough, just firm, like stopping wasn't an option. I asked his name. He said, "Doesn't matter." I asked if rescue was coming. He said, "Not yet." That word stuck with me. Yet. At one point, a thought slid into my head, terrifyingly calm. If I stop walking, he'll make me. And I don't know why that scared me more than dying. Eventually, lights cut through the white, yellow, blurry, the parking lot, my car. I started crying without realizing it. The moment we reached solid ground, my legs gave out. I turned to thank him, to ask him to stay, but he was already stepping backward. Into the storm, I told him to wait. He shook his head. "You made it far enough," he said, then added, "Next time, listen when the mountain tells you to stop." And he was gone. Just gone. Like the storm closed behind him. Rescue arrived minutes later. They asked who helped me. I told them. Their expressions changed, not confusion, recognition. They asked me to describe him. When I did, one of them looked away. The other said quietly, "We lost a skier matching that description 5 winters ago." They never found his body. At the hospital, my brother showed me my phone. At 6:58 p.m., someone had replied to his text from my number. Just 3 words. "He's with me." The timestamp matched when I was unconscious. I didn't have my phone out, and I don't remember typing anything. I survived. But sometimes when winter storms roll in and the world goes quiet, I dream of footsteps in snow and a hand on my wrist, still warm, still pulling me forward, like it's making sure I keep walking, like it's reminding me I wasn't rescued, I was escorted.